2160p, or better known as 4K, has been the buzzword for hardware enthusiasts for the past few years. And now ever since E3 2016, 4K gaming has been the talk of the town for many console gamers, with the PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X being the flagship 4K machines from Sony and Microsoft respectively. While in the console space, we've gotten some games that come remarkably close to hitting a full fat 4K, in the PC space, 4K is still out of reach for many everyday consumers, with tech able to run at such a high resolution only available to true hardware enthusiasts who are willing to fork out a nice pile of cash. But taking a look at the console space, these are $400 machines running games at 4K. To achieve similar results on a PC, you'd need to spend $400 alone just on your graphics card. And that's not even including the prices of other extremely important components. Taking a look at the specs, even the most powerful console on the market, the Xbox One X, is packing a GPU that's roughly equivalent to the power of the RX 580. And the PS4 Pro is rocking a graphics core that's pretty similar in performance to the GTX 970. Yeah, not exactly what I'd consider 4K targeted cards. But taking a look at what these machines are delivering, they punch way above their weight when specs are taken into consideration, and they make it work. But just exactly how are they achieving these results? And what lessons can we learn to improve our PC experience? Alright, so first off, I think it's important to mention that the consoles aren't actually rendering at a native 3840 by 2160. Instead, to save processing time, they turn to using smart upscaling and reconstruction techniques, most of which unfortunately aren't available in many PC titles. The sharpest form of reconstruction that's commonly used in the console space is known as checkerboard rendering, and on a technical level, it's actually a pretty smart way to shave milliseconds off your render budget. When taking a look under the hood, checkerboarding forces the GPU to render a frame at 1920 by 2160, or effectively half the amount of pixels found in a full 4K frame. It then extrapolates the image sideways, leaving a checkerboard-like pattern of drawn pixels, meaning that out of every 2x2 pixel square, which equals 4 total pixels, only 2 pixels are actually given native display data. Once the frame is checkerboarded, it's then run through a reconstruction filter that's similar to a de-interlacing filter used on older TV and broadcasting sets. This allows the GPU to extrapolate more data out of the frame and effectively fill in the pixels that are missing display information. While this might sound a little weird and you might not think it's anything worth writing home about, in practice it's a remarkably effective way to get a native 4K level of sharpness out of an image that contains half the total amount of data. Let's take a look at Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4 Pro, and when looking at the final image when rendered natively compared to a checkerboarded one, it comes incredibly close and offers a significant bump in clarity while only doubling the total processing time. When in comparison, it would actually quadruple frame rate if you were going for a native 2160p. While in the console space, this relatively new technique is quite popular, especially among Xbox One X and PS4 Pro optimized titles, it's relatively unheard of on PC. The only games that support this feature off the top of my head are Rainbow Six Siege, and there it's called temporal interlaced rendering and uses MSAA to do the bulk of the sharpening, and Mass Effect Andromeda, both of which use this technique to improve overall image quality without sacrificing too much in terms of performance. However, if developers want to go for a more traditional upscale and maintain a solid frame rate, then dynamic resolution scaling is another great way to help speed up processing time. This technique actually dates all the way back to Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo 64. When under load, the resolution would drop to 320 by 240, and when overhead allowed, the console would boost resolution up to 512 by 384. Hardly what we'd call a modern dynamic resolution scaler, but the idea of adjusting resolution on the fly isn't something unique to this console generation. If we take a look under the hood of this technique, it operates on a fairly simple set of arguments, and is a quick and easy way to free up some processing time. To get technical, most modern games render their scenes with the strict time budget in mind. This is mostly 30Hz on console, but plenty of other games play all the way up to 60. This means that in order to have a new frame ready every 16.67 milliseconds to correspond with a 60Hz display refresh, the game must complete all rasterization operations within that given time, or else a frame will be dropped, meaning that the current frame will be displayed for a second refresh, or will cause a tear in the image. Dynamic resolution seeks to help developers open up their render budgets and allow for the hardware to react more dynamically to situations in software. If a game is targeting 60Hz at 1080p and suddenly the hardware isn't able to maintain a 60fps target, then the overall resolution of the frame will drop, which allows for the GPU to fill the frame faster with an ever so slightly less complex scene. Nvidia took a fairly similar approach to shadowing and shading with their variable rate shading, but it's many times more complex and isn't designed to kick in when frames are being dropped. It's actually a really smart way to boost performance, and it definitely subscribes to the philosophy that graphical fidelity can be sacrificed in small amounts in order to claw back some more performance. But there can be a downside to this, and look no further than Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus on Nintendo Switch. Portable play, yeah, it's not too bad, especially on the 720p screen, but dock it and play it on our 4K display and it looks really rough. It's still an impressive effort in engineering, but at times when the Switch is most under load, the game can drop all the way down to 360p in portable mode and can drop down to 540p when docked. And like I said, on a 4K screen this looks really blurry and pixelated, which I mean, performance to me is more important than graphical fidelity. However, it's still quite impressive that we can play such high quality games on consoles at such high resolutions. Sure, PS4 Pro can't run native 4K content, and Xbox One X usually has to settle for around 1800p, but because of the ingenuity of the developers behind these games, we've seen plenty of performance saving measures become increasingly widespread in the last 5 or so years. While on PC, these techniques aren't as common as we'd like them to be, their inclusion into modern game engines is starting to get the ball rolling when it comes to advancing performance, and achieving those ever so crucial frame rates. But for now, if the game you're playing supports dynamic resolution scaling or checkerboard rendering, then I'd check out how these options can improve your performance. We've already seen in games such as Apex Legends, Far Cry 5, and Wolfenstein 2 that the included DRS in the options menu can be a successful approach to such a complex problem. And keep in mind that these are big AAA games that received major releases on console as well. But that's really all we have to say on the matter, and let us know what you think. If you enjoyed this video and want a special private Discord rank, please consider joining our Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can get an inside look into the behind the scenes work that goes into these videos, and you can also work with me directly to decide video topics and help write scripts. If you are at all interested in supporting us, the link to our Patreon is in the description. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll be notified about all our future uploads. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.